going to teach you some techniques today on how to get something, hopefully, that looks a little bit more like this. Now, this is Hey everyone, welcome back to Art 101. My name is Mr. Franklin, and we're here again today to create some artwork. Got some fun lessons for you. Grab your materials and let's get started. A lot of times when we're using crayons, we don't use them to the full potential. Now here is a sample page of a fish, which is going to be our subject for today. And you can see how this fish was colored in with, it's a goldfish, and you can see how it was kind of colored this way and this way and this way, and it was probably, we used a orange, because it's an orange, kind of a goldfish, so you know, we did this way. The problem is when you go in different directions like this, you get what's commonly called scribbles and scribbling, and that doesn't always look so nice. And so we want to try to avoid that if possible. So we're going to teach you some techniques today on how to get something, hopefully, that looks a little bit more like this. Now this was done these were done in the exact same crayons, right? Same box, nothing special, 16. It's not the big box. You can use the big box, but you don't need it. Just the 16 box is fine. This was done in with the same materials, but with a little different technique. So today we're going to kind of work on that and show you. Okay, so when you're drawing, you want to have a reference. You want to have some kind of photo or an actual object to draw from. So in this case, we're drawing a fish, a goldfish. So I have this photo of this goldfish. So you can find these online or in magazines or books, that kind of thing. So have something to draw from so you can draw as accurately as possible. You can see how this fish's body is like an oval, right? And his head, I don't know if this is like a male or female fish, is like almost like a triangle on the tip here. And then let's see how the tail is. The tail kind of comes up here. We can actually just make this into almost another triangle, and then we can go back and form it to be a tail by putting almost like a U shape in there. And then we have kind of another a lot of triangles in this image. See all those triangles? And then almost a curve like a U for this fin up top. Okay. And for the eye, a circle. Okay. And so now we can kind of build the shape of this fish. Now I'm gonna make it a little more accurate there. We got some lines on this fin that come down, same as with the lower fins. I'm going to draw some curved lines. I call these contour lines, just to kind of show the outside of the body. So then I can put some of these little scales in here. Now I'm not going to put all the scales in. I'm just going to put a few, just to give the feeling of scales. Okay. And here's another circle for the iris of the eye. We'll color that in later. And then for the mouth area, we have like a little bit of a mouth, so we're going to put a little bit of a lip here. I'm just going to go over this now and just kind of outline the shapes that I want. Hopefully this is staying in focus. going over here. Now you wouldn't have to do this. You could just go right to the next step. You wouldn't have to outline it. Sometimes just giving a little bit of a darker outline just kind of helps keep everything in the right order here. I'm going to leave a little bit of a white spot in that dark center of the eye, kind of a reflection. I usually like to do that when I'm drawing animals or people. Okay, come back here. Go back to our reference photo. You can see how there's some gills here. I'm going to just put a line there for this, and then it looks like there's a little bit of a line here that comes up real light. I'm just going to put that in there. We'll fill that in with color in a little bit. Looks like there's a line here. And we got some shadow going on here, so we want to go ahead and capture that a little bit. So just lightly, I'm going to kind of put this line. We're going to fill that with color later. Okay, and a little bit of shadow up here. All right, so there is our gist. Now, you can take your, we forgot to do the scales a little bit, so we'll put a few lines here for the scales. Looks like there's a center line right there. Now I'm going to take my eraser now. Now I can erase all my pencil lines that I had before. You want to make sure this is dry so it's not going to smudge. I'm just using the end of my pencil. Oops, look what I forgot. You guys see what I forgot? I forgot the little lines on the fin, or the tail, excuse me. Let's put those in before I erase it all. All right, get all those eraser lines out of there. Now we can now look at that. Who needs a coloring book? We just made our own initial coloring book. So if you got a coloring book, it would look something like this, and then you would color it. So now we're going to color in our own image, and we're just going to use our crayons. I'm going to show you some pro tips on how to color with crayons, like an artist, okay? So the first thing is, do you see this? Let's look at our image again. It's orange, right? You look at that fish, you're like, oh, it's a goldfish. You know, we call it a goldfish, but it's really orange, right? It's orange. But if you look carefully, look how many different shades of orange there are. It gets almost red, and in the center, it's almost yellow, right? And since orange is made up of yellow and red, we're going to start off, instead of just taking our orange crayon and coloring it orange and leaving it, we're going to layer our colors, okay? We're going to start off with yellow, and I'm just going to lightly, I'm not going to press too hard, but I'm just going to lightly cover basically the whole image with yellow. I'm going to stay away from the eye, because I'll leave that a little bit more on the white side, although this fish looks like the eye is orange too. Can you see that? Yeah, it looks like that eye is orange. So you probably could color it in. And we're going to do the fins. Trying to stay within the lines. Now, let's see how I'm coloring here. I'm going fast because this is just my initial value or level. Okay. So when I hold the crayon, I either hold it like this, or sometimes I'll hold it like a pencil. But I actually sometimes just pinch it with my thumb and my finger. And if you watch, I'm going to follow the contour, the curve of this fish. See how it kind of curves like this? So I'm going to follow that, and as it goes this way, I'm going to curve it the other way. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go this way and then go this way, because that's going to give us scribbles. We want to stay each section, make sure we're coloring the right way, almost like mowing a lawn, right? When you mow a lawn, you don't go, no, 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 you go in rows, right? So we keep it in our rows, and that way it stays neat. Okay, so we have that. So now we're going to take our, well, you know, we have another orange color. Let's see what this one is. This one's called yellow orange. Okay, so that's orange with a little more yellow added to it. So let's start with the lighter. That's the lighter of the two. So let's start with that one, and we're just going to go on top. We're going to start at the edges of the fish. And if this was a basketball, and you were drawing a basketball, or if this was, you know, whatever it might be, a camel, it would be drawn. You do the same thing on the edges, on the parts where it's closest to the outside. We're going to add a little more of the orange color, and towards the center of the object, we are going to leave a little more yellow, and that's going to give us almost a little bit of a three-dimensional look later on. But we're layering these colors, right? We're putting one layer down first, and now we're covering it with another layer. So we have our beginning yellow, and it's starting to take on a gold color. So now let's go ahead and continue with our darker orange. This is just plain out, oh, this is red orange. Ooh, we even have an orange. Look how many oranges we have in this box. That's amazing. Okay, so let's just go with the orange next. We'll do a multiple layer. Okay, so it's starting to take shape. Notice how I'm going in the same direction, following the contour of the body of the fish. Trying not to scribble, trying to fill in all the little white lines. We don't want to see any scribble lines. Do your best to stay inside the black areas. If you go outside, it's okay. We can fix that later. All right. So let's try, now we're going to try the red orange. So this is orange with more red added to it. Remember I told you orange is called a secondary color. It's when you combine two primary colors. So red and yellow are primary colors. If you mix them together, you get orange. Orange is a secondary color. Now if you add more primary to it, and more of the primary, you get yellow orange, or if you add the other color red, you get red orange. And that's called a tertiary color. That's a big word, huh? Tertiary. Sometimes they call it an intermediate color. You don't need to worry about that right now. Just know that colors can be mixed together to make other colors, and they can be mixed together to make your artwork a little more interesting. So I'm going to kind of stay around the outside because that's where the shadow is. So basically we're putting a little more dark around where there might be some shadow. Okay, and we're making it as smooth as possible. Keeping it as smooth as possible. Just try to stay away from the scribbles. Now there's some types of art that you do scribble, and I'll show you some of that a little later on another video. But with this, we want to try to make it as smooth as possible. Okay, so now we have our orange. We've kind of we've run out of our orange colors. Now next on the color wheel, next to orange and red orange, you're going to find red. So I'm going to go ahead and take my red, and I'm just going to add a little bit of red. I'm not going to go too much, but just on the outside borders, we're going to do a little red. And you can see how that pops right out. You see how that starts to look like more of a three-dimensional object? Don't worry if it gets out a little bit. Just try to do your best to stay within the lines. And we're still blending it together to try to make it as smooth as possible. just kind of outlining the edge here, and then I'll come back and do little circular motions to blend that line in to get it as smooth as possible. Okay, same thing on the tail. Now the next step, I'm going to share you a little trick. When you want to add shadow, we're going to add a little bit of shadow. And since the last color we used was red, we're going to add the complementary color of red. Now I'm going to show you the color wheel right here, and you can see the complement of red is green. Now it would also be okay to use blue because the majority of this fish is blue, or is orange, and the complementary color of orange is blue. But I'm going to start off with a little bit of red, and this is going to be very light. I don't want to do too much, but I'm just going to add a little bit around the edges, and you can see how it's just going to darken it up just a little bit. It's going to give it a little shadow, and it's going to make it a little bit more three-dimensional. Now you would say, Mr. Franklin, why aren't we using black? Shouldn't the shadow be black? Well, you could, but I find that if we use too much black, sometimes it kind of muddies up your color, your drawing. It gets it a little bit kind of dirty looking and not as sharp. And so we want to try to avoid that. At the very end, if you feel like I really need to get this area a little darker and I can't do it with the complementary colors, then you can go back and use a little bit of black to touch it up. But you don't want to overdo it, because if you add too much black, it can mess up your drawing, and it can make it not as nice as you would have liked it to be. All right, so I'll try a little blue here too, since some of this is orange. And you can just see it's just like a little shadow there on the bottom. And just where it curves, like when things curve around, right? When things curve, the light touches the center of it, but maybe it doesn't reach quite over here. And so this gets a little bit darker because it's not directly in the light. So we call that a shadow. And that's what we're doing by adding these. Now, wow, look at this. Look what's going on. This is really coming to life here. Now, so here's our example. Now, does it look exactly like that? No. Does it have to look exactly like your reference photo? It can. The more you work on it, you know, the closer it'll get. I could probably add a little more red. This fish is really red, so I could probably add some more red and darken it up a little bit. But I kind of want my fish to be gold, so I'm going to leave it like that. Remember, our reference photo is just it's a photo for us to use as an example, as a reference. We don't have to make it exactly like that. We just want to use that to get us on the right track and help us to get started. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to make a background. We're going to make a background, and I'm going to use this blue crayon, and you can use a pencil if you'd like. And I'm going to make a little bit of a rectangle. And I'm going to have the fish sticking out of this rectangle on all sides. You see that? So we're going to give it some blue and green for our background. And I'm going to do some waves, kind of like he's in the water. So we're going to use some wavy lines here. Okay, and so we're gonna color these lines in with our blue and our green. So I'm going to start off with blue. Remember, we can layer our colors. When we add color on top of color, it gives it a little different look. It makes it a little deeper. Violet is kind of the artistic name for purple. And do you know how we make violet? Who can guess? Yep, that's right. If you look at the color wheel, violet is a secondary color, and you make it by adding red and blue together, and you get purple or violet. And how about green? Green is when we add blue and yellow. Two primary colors, blue and yellow together, and that makes the secondary color green. All right, so we're going to keep going. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and layer this. We're going to make it kind of a green, purple little pattern here. right? Patterns alternate. So we're going to make a pattern here, and I'll probably speed up this video a little bit so you can kind of see the finished project a little bit faster. Now we're going to make a little bit of a shadow, so we're going to have, I'm going to go ahead and use my my red here. Since the green here, I'm just going to kind of just give a little bit of shadow on the outside, and we may end up using a little black for the shadow just to make it a little darker. Just kind of going around the outside of the fish. I think what I want to do now, I think I'm going to take either a black crayon or a marker. I'm going to use a marker, and I'm just going to go over some of this. You could use a black crayon, and I'm just going to kind of outline this outside area. Could have done this before I colored. If I want to, I could do another, almost like a frame here. Made a little mistake there, so what do I do when I make a mistake? Well, maybe we can incorporate it into our drawing. What if we just did some dotted lines here? Look at that, what do you think? I like it. We can get you a little bit closer view. So you can do that. So let's compare. So here's this one. Do you see the difference? If we just colored in our fish and scribbled it in with one color, blue for the background and orange for the fish, it doesn't look quite as nice. But if we layer our colors, and we add some shadow using the complementary colors. Okay, you see the difference? Quite a bit. And the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. And I know you guys are going to do well. I can't wait to see some of your drawings. You guys, I really appreciate you emailing me your drawings and sending me some photos. It's really encouraged me and made my day. So keep doing that. Love to see them. And here's these two. You can see one's little and one's big. You can make them different sizes. You don't have to always make the same size drawing. You can change it up. Maybe you only have a piece of paper that's kind of small. Maybe you have an index card. You ever see an index card? Or maybe you see these ones with the lines on them. You can use the back side and you can draw on one of those. So that's another option. Okay, I just want to show you real quick, if there's any stray marks that you want to get rid of, you can, and they're light enough, you can use your eraser and it will take away pretty much any light little marks that are on your paper. Now if they're too dark of a crayon, it's not going to do it, but if you have some light marks, you can erase and it'll come off a little bit. So just something to think about when you are finishing up your piece. Great job, everyone. Keep working hard, and we will see you next time.